Welcome in. It's the early Wedge. It's the EW3M DFS preview. How about
Not
that?
bad.
All the initials you could possibly imagine. We'll take care of it. Sia Nejad is here. Sia, have you decompressed from the open?
I wish we had done that with the RBC. I feel like that might have been the better place to do it. Maybe we can come up with something else. Yeah, I guess I've decompressed. I mean, you know me, every time there's a new set of pricing out on a Monday, it feels like the same thing to me, Groundhog Day, but like in a very much a good way. So yeah, I've decompressed. I mean, it was interesting because we talked about it, Rick, how Sunday didn't seem that exciting, but at the same time, you were like, behold this moment, because this is the type of thing that we're just not going to witness all the time. So, think of it now as opposed to 10 years from now. But with all of that said, I am looking forward to not having Scotty Scheffler in a tournament. So here we go.
He is not. He is not in the field this week. One of his best buddies is. We'll get to him in just a second. Right in the middle of your screen is Mike McClure. Mike, it is good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Rick. Good to see you, Sia. I have decompressed because I've been grinding baseball all day, so I'm ready to get back to golf. Big 250K up top tonight in baseball. A perfect way to move on. It's incredible.
Why is that?
Like
just because it's
tournament
post All-Star break. Everybody, why?
Post major golf season. I think personally why they would do that is lots of money paid out for a golf major. Let's get some of that money back in play right away.
Don't withdraw. Let's see if you can fire it on baseball. I like that strategy.
Yep.
That's very good. Will you dabble in baseball, Sia? Have you ever dabbled in baseball?
I was just going to say, Mike, I know you're not supposed to do it, but feel free to send me a lineup when we've got this 250K up top. To be honest with you, I do dive into baseball here and there, but not DFS. There's a lot going on with baseball DFS that I'm not with.
Grind is putting it nicely.
Yeah.
When it comes to the amount of volume and matchups and pitcher, it just, I have not enough space in my brain. So hat tip to you, Mike, but we're talking about golf here, my friends. We are going to cover the 3M Open. We've got 3M Open. We've got Wyndham Championship, and then we've got the playoffs. So we are very much at the end of the year. There are guys who are teeing it up with hopes of making sure they get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. But Sia, I'll give you a first crack here. 3M Open, as far as PGA Tour events go, this is a relatively new one. We're going to go to TPC Twin Cities, and we are going to look for what types of players?
Well, I hate to give you the cop-out answer. I am looking for the all-around game, which is why this is one of the first tournaments I actually looked at total strokes more than I normally do, but certainly looking for ball strikers. I know there's going to be sort of a debate as we look at the scorecard where we're at with accuracy versus distance. I'm really looking at both, and I'm kind of measuring out, I want a threshold accuracy that I'm looking for, let's say 60% accuracy if I'm looking on RRG, for example, Rick, and then I'm looking for a certain amount of distance as well. I don't think distance is a prerequisite, but I'm certainly looking for that upside, especially when you're attacking these par fives and knowing that there's eagles out there, certainly birdies out there. So I'm looking at scoring. I'm looking at ball striking. I am looking at total strokes gained to some degree. And then, of course, off the tee, waiting distance, maybe a little bit more than some, but certainly accuracy in play as well.
Yeah, scoring, I think, is going to be strong again here this week, Mike. This is an event, especially that final stretch there, where you can really take advantage of. Winning score last year was only 17 under par. The year before that was Lee Hodges at 24 under, but he won by 7 strokes. So maybe it is that 17 to 20 under range where this thing starts to settle in, which is, going out and shooting 5 under every single day.
Yeah, it's fully what I expect. I would, if we set a line on it, I would definitely be taking better scoring than 15. I think it's 20 is more likely than 15 here, in my opinion. As far as what I'm looking for, Sia nailed it. I think total strokes gained definitely in consideration for me. The only part where I will differ a little is I am not accounting for driving distance at all this week. I care way more about accuracy and just gaining greens regulation for me. 3-putt avoidance I've left in there the last 2 weeks. I actually have decided this afternoon that I'm leaving it in again today, and then just adding in around the green play as well. But mostly total strokes gained, which for me, sample size on that will be between 24 and 36 rounds for each player. I would drive a real data scientist crazy because I do use different numbers for every player, depending on what my brain tells me and what I've been watching. That's something unique that I do that some people would hate, but full transparency, it's as much as 36 on most players, as low as 24, but never shy with something as low as 4 or 8 rounds if there's injury, things like that involved.
Okay, fair. Now, Sia, I want to list off a couple of names for you and see if we can find a through line here. Johnny Vegas, your winner last year. He's your defending champion. Lee Hodges, Tony Finau, Cam Champ, Michael Thompson, Matthew Wolff. Anything? Is this doing anything for you?
Well, certainly a lot of long bomb hitters there. Certainly some distance off the tee with a lot of the names you mentioned, but a lot of these guys are ball strikers as well. Like Johnny Vegas, vintage Johnny Vegas is ball striking Johnny Vegas. So again, I do think that lends itself. Again, we can have the distance argument because Rick, I wonder where you stand on that. You're probably, I think kind of splitting it down the middle is probably the conventional wisdom here, but certainly feels like a ball striker's course. But if we're scoring, you got to be good with the putter as well.
Yeah, so I guess the big thing to note is there's water everywhere, right? So there's water in play on 15 holes. So you've really got to keep it dry. Like step one, keep it dry. I don't really care if that is 320 yards or 300 yards or 290 yards, but you cannot be piling up big numbers. We will see guys when you wake up on the West Coast on Thursday morning who have already hit 2 or 3 balls in the water and they are, for the most part, out of this tournament. So I'm hopefully going to try to be avoiding that. And I think, see, to answer your question, being a little more liberal on the side of accuracy, I think is the route that I would like to go down.
All right. Fair enough.
Keep it in play, keep it dry. Anything else, Mike, from before we jump into kind of the names? This is definitely going to skew on the weaker side of things. We've got a combination of the fact that a lot of the best players were just overseas for the last 2 weeks, along with the playoffs coming up in 2 weeks. This is the natural resting point. So the best players that you see in this field might be here for necessity reasons, but overall it's probably going to skew as one of the bottom 5 or 6 weaker fields of the year. Does that change your thinking or adjust any of your thoughts leading into this week?
It will a little bit. We're obviously going to talk names and numbers very, very shortly, and we'll always ask the question, is there a natural letdown? Is there a hangover? I think that'll be on the top of my mind, but what generally happens here is there's going to be a couple golfers in the 7 to 8K range that just get absolutely steamed in terms of ownership. And that is something that I'll be more conscious of than a normal week, because I do think that, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I think the top guys are interesting, and they're far from your average 10K golfer at a normal tournament.
All right, well, let's talk about it in a minute. Actually, we'll probably talk about it in like 30 seconds. We'll talk about it after we take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
And we're back. Let's name those names as promised. This is my website, rickrungood.com. This is the cheat sheet. We'll use this as a reference point the rest of the way. 3 golfers, just 3, over $10,000. Sam Burns is $10,500. Maverick McNeely, $10,300. Chris Gotterup, an even $10,000. Mike, you promised me we would name names in a minute, so let's start naming names.
All right. Look. Sam Burns, we're not used to paying 10-5 for Sam Burns. That's kind of what I like Sam Burns in the spot. I think he's going to play well. I think he has played well. I think it's, let's remind ourselves that we're also used to seeing Rory McIlroy at 10-5 at some of these events, or even Xander. So when I say that we're playing like 7K guys or 8K guys at chalk, I'm more willing to do that when I can count on a guy that I know for sure is going to be likely in a top 5, top 10 spot. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case. So I think it's weaker at the top. If I had to rank them, it would be Sam Burns first. I think he's a deserving favorite in this field. I'm going to go Goddard up second and McNeely third. Mavs played great golf for whatever reason. My computer doesn't like him. I know I have biases baked in. I admit that. Goddard up, though, the question is got to be, is this the letdown spot, right? You mentioned playing multiple weeks overseas, having a ton of success, frankly, changing his life. He made 60% of his career earnings in 14 days, which is incredible, right? But he wasn't even planning to play the Open Championship when he went over to the Scottish Open. Like, he wasn't planning to play that tournament. And then he stayed over there, played extremely well. Now he's back to Minnesota. I think that there will be enough attention on him that I'm probably not going to get to him.
And even $10,000, a run of a lifetime, as Mike mentioned, which turned a good season into a great season. Still some more work to do. If you can make it, stay hot, make a run into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Sia, when you are faced with these three, Sam Burns, Chris Gotterup, and Maverick McNeely, how do you start splitting the hairs at the top of this board?
Well, I think the pricing is really interesting. What Mike alluded to with you're not normally paying 10.5 for Sam Burns, let alone 10,000 for Chris Gotterup. I just want to point out that I think the pricing is soft enough where you can kind of play anybody you want. And oh, by the way, if you hypothetically, and I don't want to leave Mav out of this, I'm not playing Mav, but if anybody wants to, I completely get it. Although, there are some accuracy issues with Mav off the tee, but you could say the same about Chris Gotterup, with at least lately there have been. With all that said, you can play two of the three guys at the top and still have 7,300 and change left, which I think is a tremendous amount of money because I think there's some guys in the low 7K range, but also the 6K range that you can get away with playing. With that said, if I had to rank these guys, I'm going to start with Burns. I've been on Burns for like a month and a half now, and it would be silly for me to all of a sudden say, oh, he's too expensive, so I'm not going to play him. I don't think he's going to be too popular. I think him, Chris Gotterup, and to some extent Matt McNeely are going to get some ownership, but I don't think it's going to be prohibitive at all. And especially if you think one of these guys can win the tournament, go ahead and play them. It would be Sam Burns for me. I love what he can do with the ball striking when he's on, and particularly with the putter. Certainly Chris Gotterup as I could see him taking a step back, but I could also see him kind of keeping this thing going. I think it's a 50-50 proposition. So for me, it would be Burns, Gotterup, and Mav. In terms of who I'm actually going to play, it's probably going to be Burns and move on.
Sam Burns just lost strokes putting for the first time since Phoenix. Probably unlikely for that to happen again. He's played 3 times at TPC Twin Cities, 7th, 32nd, and 12th. That was the most recent was last year. So yeah, there's certainly some interesting options there at the top. Let's continue and see. I'll give you the first crack at the 9K range here, because if you thought paying, $10,000 for Chris Gotterup made your stomach turn, Wyndham Clark is 9,800. Ricky Fowler is 95. Taylor Pendrith is 94. Then we round this out with Max Grazerman, Siwoo Kim, Tony Finau, and Sung Jae Im is a flat $9,000. What are we doing here, if anything, in the 9K range?
I love that you concluded that question with "if anything."
Yeah,
this is maybe the first time I am not playing. We always love the 9K range. Everybody always loves the 9K range. This might be the first time that I'm outright skipping it. And again, I might play a couple of 10K guys, or I might play maybe a 9K guy and just play a super balanced lineup, which I don't think a lot of people are going to do. But when I go down this list, first of all, I'm not playing Wyndham Clark. That's a no for me. Ricky Fowler, I think, is interesting because he obviously, we saw him last week play pretty well, but there are spots where Ricky Fowler can really flash. It's a no for me there. Max Grazerman, we've been on him all year. We liked him, but I'm hearing his name a lot. He's not in the best form. He can sometimes be a little wild off the tee, and the approach play isn't always there like we saw at the Open Championship. So I think he's a good upside play, which makes him fine for DFS, but I'm not super interested in him either. Taylor Pendrith, I think if he doesn't get much ownership, I'd be very interested in him. I think he's kind of an unknown out here. Certainly seems like a good course fit. So for me, it's Grazerman and Pendrith that I'd consider. Siwoo also makes a little bit of sense. And then I'm out on everybody else. I'm also not playing Tony Finau.
Well, let's say this. Let's say you have 10 lineups. How many of them would probably skip the 9K range?
So out of 10, I would admittedly, I would probably have 2 or 3 that would have some 9K people in it, at least 1 or 2 9K people in it.
Got it. Okay. Mike, I throw this 9K range open to you. We've got some problem children here, right? Wyndham Clark's been all over the place. Sung Jae Im hasn't been himself. who knows what Tony Finau and Siwoo Kim are going to do. How are you attacking the 9K range?
I'm going to be extremely sensitive to ownership on this. I will say that I think the sentiment will be kind of that no one really wants to dive into this range too much. I think that like Sam Burns is still a more comfortable click than some of these guys at 9K. The thing that I would say is I could lean into Tony Finau at lower ownership. I don't hate it. I'm not in love with it. I certainly don't like what I saw where he lost 14 strokes at the Travelers. That's not good. 8 of it on the putting surfaces. Would venture to say it was probably his worst career putting round.
Yeah,
off the top of my head, maybe not. FedEx St. Jude in 23 was equally as bad. So we've seen that it can be that bad. But if I had to play something in the 9K range, the first click for me would be Tony Finau and Siwoo Kim. Other than that, I'm not getting anyone in the 9s. I will say Wyndham Clark is fascinating because right before going to the Open Championship with the Scottish, we kind of talked about, he's close. He may be right there. Has a disaster of an opening round. But it was kind of like Bryson. I mean, there's an alternate universe here where Wyndham Clark and Bryson DeChambeau are 1 and 2 at the Open Championship, or right next to Scotty Scheffler, essentially. Those two golfers, I know Bryson's not in this field, but Bryson and Wyndham Clark were incredible for rounds 2, 3, and 4. And that was right after he was incredible at Scottish Open. So I've seen some stuff from Wyndham Clark. The golfer, the guy I'm not a big fan of personally. I bake some biases in. I don't like playing him, but he has my attention.
10 of his last 14 rounds have been awesome. The other 4 have been very bad. The opening round at the Open, he lost 3 strokes to the field. He was awesome after that. The final round at the Scottish Open, he lost a stroke. He was awesome in the other 3 rounds. Friday in Detroit, lost 4 strokes. He was great on Thursday. Then the Travelers, he had 2 awesome rounds, 2 really bad rounds. So you are getting full-fledged low floor, high ceiling. So I guess, Sia, if you're looking at a 9K range, and Mike talked about being very sensitive to ownership in this range, and also I think he is not the only one with a bias against Wyndham Clark. There is a chance that Wyndham Clark has the highest upside of any of these guys at a very low ownership.
Yeah, that's very true. And especially when you look at his not his ownership, but his history here, it's not particularly great either. So yeah, he could be slightly lower owned because again, I think especially when you're looking at course history, I mean, look what Max Grazerman did here last year. What was it? Second. Taylor Pendrith, who I don't know if people are going to play him, but 5th last year. So there are some course history reasons and some upside reasons to play some other guys. But again, this is the type of tournament that I do think lends itself to a guy like Wyndham Clark popping potentially. But again, I don't know that people want to play that at 9,800.
He's going to hit like 6 balls in the water. I can just absolutely feel it in my veins. Here's the 8K range. There are 10 golfers. We start with Jake Knapp, Davis Thompson, and Kurt Kitayama. The middle of this range, that's like your Keith Mitchell, your Michael Thorbjornsons, and your Emiliano Grillos. Then we rounded out with Max Homa, who's up to 8,300. Adam Scott is 82. Luke Clanton is 81, and Akshay Bhatia is 8,000. I believe, Mike, it is your turn to go first in the 8K range.
So I love a lot here.
Okay.
Akshay Bhatia will be my highest owned golfer. I don't believe he should be 8K in this field. I think he should be 9K in the 9s. I like the profile a lot. I actually mentioned I would potentially play him last week. If the computer gave it to me, he's one I would never turn away. In this particular field, 3rd in strokes gained approach, 2nd in 3-putt avoidance, which I think is going to be critical. And I like a lot of what I've seen in terms of some of the accuracy and, hitting greens in regulation. I think this is a great week where we could see Akshay go shoot 20 under. So I like this spot for him a lot, but it's mostly the price point that has me interested. And then after that, Emiliano Grillo, that's my next guy at 8,400. I have both of these guys firmly, I believe, in my top 5 overall, regardless of price, and just overall win equity in this event. So I'm very, very heavy there. But Batia is my guy and my first click in terms of the outright market as well.
It is like a bright green in the putting category for Emiliano Grillo at the 3M Open, which I will look this up later. This might be the greatest golf course he's ever putted on, because you don't usually see that. Sia, the names that Mike offered were in the bottom half of this 8K range. Akshay Bhatia was $8,000 even. Emiliano Grillo, 8,400. Do you see this range similar to Mike, or where are you headed here?
I mean, this is the range. This is why I led the show by saying I might have some balanced lineups. Just FYI, let's look at the top from Michael Thorbjornsen. Hopefully Jeff Stenberg is watching or listening. From Michael Thorbjornsen to Jake Knapp. So we're talking Thorbjornsen, Mitchell, Kitayama, Davis Thompson, Jake Knapp. I actually like all of those to varying degrees. You could take 4 of those guys, any 4 really, and still be left with about 7,400 left over, which you throw in. We'll talk about the low 7K guys. There's plenty of guys to go to. So this is, and by the way, if you want to throw a 5th guy, and if you want to throw 5 guys, let's get Grillo into the mix, 8,400 to 8,900. A 5th guy, it's still going to leave you about $6,800, $6,900 for your last position. I think a lot of these guys have tremendous upside. Jake Knapp, I've already bet. He'll be on the Best Bets betting show tomorrow. I liked him at 40 to 1. It's in some places it's down to 35 to 1. I do think his range of outcomes is kind of wide. I think if he gets sloppy with the ball striking, it could go south. But Jake Knapp is the guy that has the upside to win this tournament. So I really like him at 8,900. But again, I'm willing to play Davis Thompson. If we want to talk about ball strikers, Davis Thompson is certainly one of those guys. Kitayama I may pass over, but I understand the argument for him. Keith Mitchell might not get a ton of ownership, even though he probably should as a classic ball striker. And then Michael Thorbjornsen, another guy that I think is probably going to be on my outright card to win this tournament, playing really, really well since that injury that he had to shake off. I think he has tremendous upside, great ball striker, has distance, but also has accuracy, like all of these guys at the top of the range. And of course, I like Grillo as well.
Oh yeah, I wanted to see. So Kitayama's results are much, much better since the Texas Open, coming back at the Byron Nelson. It looks a lot like the version that we saw. I don't want to say that won the API, but like that, when he was playing much better golf. He played the Barracuda last week and finished T14, which is something that probably flew under the radar for a lot of people. And then prior to that, it was the John Deere T5. So he did not make that trip overseas. You could argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Obviously, he wanted to be there, but now that as we deploy him in fantasy for this week, it might actually be better that he was not over there. So interesting thoughts. We've got a 7K range and a 6K range. There are a lot of names, some guys back from the Open who are in here as well. We'll continue this conversation, but first we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure.
Just try to keep up.
Every face-off.
This ends now.
And every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. Here is the 7K range, and there are a whopping 42 names in this range. It starts with Cam Champ and Haotong Lee. They're both $7,900. The middle of the range, Sahith Theegala, Sam Stevens, maybe a little bit of Alex Noren. And then the bottom of the range, Sammy Valimaki, Tom Hoagie, William Mao. He won the ISCO. Yes, he did. Sia, the 7s are all yours.
Well, by the way, I hit William Mao a couple of weeks ago at 70 to 1. So I put in an honorary bet on him at 120 to 1 to win. So he'll be in the long shot section tomorrow. I actually like him. Part of the reason I liked him at the ISCO, we'll start at the bottom range, I guess, is because he was ball striking it really well, but he had been lost with the putter for a few tournaments in a row. But if you look, and I guess we're probably looking at Rick Run right now, when he was bad with the putter, the 3 tournaments prior to that, he was great with the putter. So it was just a matter of him coming back around, which he did at the ISCO. Look at the ball striking, Rick. I mean, the approach play, the off the tee play is very good. The upside is clearly there based on his win at the ISCO. So at a flat 7K, I'm willing to go back to him.
Is betting a guy who just cashed you a big tick? That's like tipping the dealer.
Yes.
After like, a big hand of blackjack or whatever, right?
Well, it's to me, it's like you hit the number on the roulette wheel. You live in Vegas, Rick, and you're not going to take that money off. Like you hit 32, right? You're not going to take that money off. You're going to get all your money and you're going to spread it around everywhere else. You're keeping the money on 32. That's exactly what I'm going to do, both in DFS and in the outright market. But when we go to the top of the board, I think I never played Camp Champ, but I gotta respect what he's doing. I don't know if it's a flash or not, but the ball striking has kind of been there for him. I think is it Vince Whaley? I was debating between Vince Whaley and Rico Hoey. I think Vince Whaley is an interesting name to click, and I'll give you one other one before we sort of toggle back and forth. Kevin Roy is a guy I was on. We've been on him lately. I was on him last week as well. Didn't really work out for me, but he's a birdie maker. He's a guy that with the strokes gained total, the ball striking, the scoring, he fits that bill as well.
Here's Vince Whaley's profile here, and you can see it's a lot of really strong play. Has been a cut-making machine since the Texas Open. He's got a couple of top 15 finishes in there as well. He finished 4th at the ISCO, 23rd last week at the Barracuda. So very much playing the schedule of a guy who is teeing it up this week at the 3M Open. Mike, this 7K range offers just a ton of options. Which ones are you willing to take?
Muted there. All right. A ton of options here. As Sia mentioned, Kevin Roy pops big time for me. Every little metric that I care about this week. I think that he should be essentially a top 10 golfer overall in this entire field. 3rd in total strokes gained, 4th in 3-putt avoidance for me, 2nd on approach, 6th in terms of greens and regulation. I think he's got the skill set to navigate this golf course. I like the way he's been playing. So he'll be number 1 in that range. Number 2, Andrew Putnam, 7K flat. I think he could be 8K in this field. Yes, we're coming off the miscut at the Scottish Open. I can't knock a guy like Putnam for not making the cut. And he didn't make a fool of himself by any means over there either. So I'm willing to forgive that. He's played extremely well. I think that, again, at 7K, I think that he's going to be fine. As Sia mentioned, Vince Whaley. I really like Vince Whaley's profile as well. Lee Hodges, 7,700, just dynamite on approach and hitting greens and regulation. Other ones, CBS, Bezadenhout is interesting to me. Anytime we're talking really low scoring like this, I would play him at 7,200.
Yeah, I thought he was a little too cheap. $7,200 there, a guy who plays like a big time schedule on the PGA Tour, and now he's playing probably one of the weaker fields he's been in quite some time. I thought that was pretty good. Putnam's got 3 top 11s in his last 5 starts and back-to-back top 20s in his last 2 trips to the 3M Open. Color me impressed on Andrew Putnam. Sia, was there anybody else in the 7K range to bop on before we roll?
Yeah, I wonder. First of all, Sam Stevens was a guy that I wonder about. I think the accuracy off the tee might be an issue for him, but I do think he has some upside. Bo Hostler has been playing good golf. I mean, I can't remember the last time I recommended or talked about Bo Hostler, but if you look at the last, I think he's made like 7 cuts in a row, and the ball striking is quite good. We know classically he's a good putter, and that shows in the latest tournaments as well. He just seems like, I don't know if he's sneaky or not, but he seems like a name that we used to talk about 3-4 years ago, Rick and Mike, and now all of a sudden maybe he's emerging again.
Well, I think it's sneaky because he had a miserable stretch from Pebble Beach to basically Myrtle Beach. And now he's starting to work out of it. And also, I think it's a little bit under the radar because each of his last 2 finishes, great finishes, were both opposite field events. Mm-hmm. So that itself gets a little bit covered up with the T11 at the John Deere Classic. And yeah, like you said, Sia, historically, probably one of the better players in this field. I also kind of feel that way about Joel Damon, who I think is 70. Maybe he's actually cheaper than that. Joel Damon's got a new caddy, or at least we'll have a new caddy on the bag at this week because he split.
He's 6,500, by the way.
Okay, wow. I didn't even scroll far enough. Okay, we'll get to him in just a second. But I like the guys that are just kind of longer term like now give me a little bit of a shakeup.
Real quick, do we like Doug Gim?
Yes.
Yes.
I failed to mention his name, but yes, he is right there with Vince Whaley and Lee Hodges for me.
Okay.
The
T19,
one area
T31,
my model's
T20.
discounting
Go ahead,
him is the 3-putt avoidance. He's been a disaster there, but the approach play and hitting greens and just the real short irons that he could see here, he is probably the best player in the field with that particular setup.
The fact that Doug Gim is gaining with the putter in any tournament is lends itself to thinking, okay, Doug Gim has some upside, because that never happens.
He's got a good record around here too. Basically I'm rounding a little bit, but for top 25s and 5 trips. So he's got a pretty decent record around this place. The 6K range. And if you thought there might've been some cliffs earlier, there are some cliffs now. So the top of this range, Antoine Rosner, Chandler Phillips, Davis Riley. The middle, as mentioned, Joel Damon, $6,500, Grayson Sigg, Jeremy Paul. The min price golfers, oh my goodness, Ryan Palmer, Ches Reavie, Brandon Matthews, amongst others. So, Mike, this 6K range is yours. Let's find a little bit of value here.
Chandler Phillips. Look, if you can finish top 15 at the Rocket Mortgage, you could finish top 15 at the 3M, right? That's kind of the logic here. That's basically it. I'm not in love with this range. I can tell you I'm not going down to this range like I do most weeks. There are so many guys at 8K and 7K that this is the closest week of the entire calendar year to where you don't need a salary cap. Like you may not need a salary cap, and you talk about the optimal line. Like it wouldn't shock me if the optimal lineup leaves $8,000 on the table this week. It's not going to be what I'm necessarily building for, but if you don't have a situation where Sam Burns is in the top 5 at the end of the Sunday, it's going to leave at least 3,000 on the table.
Last week's optimal was 47,700, which at a major is also
with Scotty winning
in a major that is very, very low. And we have seen a lot of sub 46,000 optimals this year. So yes, I agree. You might have like 6 guys in the 7K range be in the optimal lineup this week, and I would not be surprised at all. Okay. See ya. We've got Chandler Phillips off the board. We've got a pretty ugly 6K range. What are we going to do here?
I actually don't think this 6K range is bad. Great. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I do want to just acknowledge a couple of comments. Zach Kasinski says, see, Adam Scott is due after that monstrosity. I did like I had a good week last week, but I liked Adam Scott. That did not work out for me. And just to your comment, Mike and Rick, Paul L says, is this a week to leave money on the table? To leave money on the table seems like a lot of value at the lower end, a shaky top tier. Absolutely. And then just one other thing from Zach Kasinski. Because I looked at this guy, but I wasn't willing to play him because the finishing positions just weren't there. Jesper, thank you. Aaron is helping us on the 1s and 2s. Jesper Svensson is the best kept secret on tour. He says, everybody be quiet about it. It's an interesting click. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know that I'm going to get there, but Rick, as you look at this, I know you asked me a completely different question, but the approach play, the ball striking, it's there for Jesper.
T16 at the Open. He's made 3 straight cuts. He's made 6 of his last 7. It's a very good stat profile. So Zach, yes, unfortunately, we will not be quiet about it. He's now the best Svensson in the world. He has overtaken Adam in that regard. See ya.
Ouch.
Well, I mean, listen, the bar was pretty low, to be quite honest. Like that's not really a super hot take, but what else in the 6K range can we find?
So, I mean, I'm always going to like Tristan Lawrence at a tournament like this is $6,900. I mean, I think there might be a question about Tristan with respect to fatigue. I mean, again, traveling back and he's not, he hasn't really been on the PGA Tour a ton, at least year to year. So maybe there's an argument there, but Tristan Lawrence is a very talented golfer. He didn't have much luck overseas, but I think he's a guy that if he was like decent the last couple of weeks, I think he could easily be like 7,800, 8,000, 8,300 because he was coming in playing well coming into the Scottish Open playing well. David Skins, another guy I had outright last week. He's a guy that can absolutely score for you. He was actually pretty good last week. He ended up not really being in contention, but kind of flirting with the top 10, top 20 all tournament. I think he's interesting at 6,700. Will Gordon at 6,500, I have some interest in. Rosner at 6,900, not super accurate off the tee. That could get him into trouble. But talk about a guy just like Tristan Lawrence, who's probably more talented than a lot of the guys in the 7K range, but is in the 6,900 tier. I think Rosner and Tristan are very interesting plays that, again, probably, not definitely, but probably mispriced. And here's one for you. First of all, I got to shout out Rosenmueller at 6,600 because I talk about him a lot as well. But if we're looking for accuracy and we're looking for very good recent form, how about 6,300 Paul Peterson, a guy who's very accurate off the tee and almost chased down William Mao. Fortunately, William Mao went 9 under on Sunday. Amazing stuff. But Paul Peterson should have won that tournament. Very accurate off the tee, an absolute gamer. And when the putter gets rolling for him, he can get hot. So I think at 6,300, he's an interesting sneaky play.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty sure he's one of like the shorter hitters on the PGA Tour. So he has to be incredibly accurate, and he is, right? So 169th in club head speed, but 7th in distance from edge of fairway. If he misses a fairway, which he doesn't, he hits over 70% of them. He does not miss by much. So like very unlikely to find a water ball, at least off the tee. The second shot, that's a little bit of a different story, but he's a very good approach player. So I like this a lot. Has he played the 3M Open? No, that's okay. No, that's okay.
He also kind of looks like Billy Bob Thornton. And I do want to mention Chris Gotterup is giving me Brooks Koepka vibes with his strut and his demeanor and his winning. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, agreed. Also, Paul Peterson, this is bizarre. So he wears just a Sea Island hat. So he's a Sea Island guy. That's like Sea Island Resort. And I'm pretty sure that logo on his chest, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm pretty sure that's just the official World Golf Ranking logo, which is just an insane thing to wear. Unless that's something else, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's the old OWGR logo, which is
he looking for a sponsor? Does he want to wear EW?
The early, I mean,
SportsLine?
I bet you it would be pretty cheap.
No.
We just have to get in touch with him. I don't know how we'll do that, but I think it would be pretty cheap to get some real estate on Paul Peterson's bag, hat, shirt, or all of the above. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Don't be afraid to leave some salary.
Yeah. And again, here's what's going to happen, Rick. People are going to love the guys in the 8K range. They're going to like some low 7K guys. And then they're going to have 11,000 left over. And they're going to feel like, well, I got to play Gotterup or Burns. And those are fine plays, but just know that that's what everybody else is doing as well. So again, figure it out from a roster construction standpoint. Totally fine to play those guys. Maybe mix it up somewhere else or play 2 of those guys or play none of those guys. But always keep in your mind, especially in the bigger tournaments, but really in any tournament, like don't do what you think everybody else is doing. And this is the type of field and this is the type of course where you really don't want to fall in line because you just don't have to.
Don't do what everyone else is doing. Is like just live by that. Just every day of your life. Just live by that. Okay, sweet. Love it. We're rocking and rolling. 3M, Wyndham, playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs, and then the Ryder Cup will be here before you know it. So big thanks to producer Aaron doing all the hard work on the 1s and 2s for us today. See you, Nejad. That's Mike McClure. I'm Rick Gehman. This has been The Early Wedge. We'll catch you next time.